Live. Today, I have the honor of bringing on Occasio Gee. What's up, Occasio?
Not much, Eric. Happy to be here. Thanks for inviting me on today.
You got it, man. So I've known Occasio for several years now, mostly from the local community. We both live in the Norfolk, Virginia Beach area. And then also we bump into each other at the AMA meetings every once in a while. And Occasio is actually the current president of the local chapter. So congratulations on that, Occasio.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to the members of the chapter. That's really what it's all about.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome, man. Good chapter here. So, Occasio, for those who don't know you, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do?
Okay, like Eric mentioned, my name is Occasio Gee. I'm Director of Advertising and Public Relations for Groundworks Companies, based here in Virginia Beach, Virginia. Those in the local market would probably be more familiar with our local brand, JES Foundation Repair. I'm a 20-year veteran of marketing and public relations. Can't believe it's been
It
that
hurts to
long.
say that, doesn't it?
Yeah, I'm like, whoa, that's a pretty round number too. Having got my start in the PR world at Cox Communications, then moved over to Verizon Wireless, and then to Liberty Tax, and then finally here
Yeah.
at JES. So
Yeah.
happy to be here.
Awesome, man. That's cool. All right. So let's talk about Groundworks just a little bit because you mentioned Groundworks companies, which is interesting. You don't hear that often. You usually hear something like Groundwork company, but it's plural, right? So what's that all about, and what's the different brands all about? How does that work?
Yeah, so Groundworks Companies, we are the nation's largest foundation services company. Here in Hampton Roads, we are JES. That's one of our many brands that we have across the country. We're proud to be in growth mode right now. Within the last few weeks, we've had 2 acquisitions. We now serve customers in 24 different states. The amazing thing about that is that sounds like a lot, but it's an opportunity for us because there's 26 additional states out there
You know,
that we're not currently serving.
see,
But all that is space and opportunity.
see, that's awesome, right? Because yes, you guys have grown. Like, actually, how long has it been since you started this growth phase?
So, the growth has been going on for a few years now, but we really have picked it up over the last year.
Oh, yeah.
I find it interesting. I started with the company last year in June, and on my second week, they were like, "Hey, we need a press release. We're acquiring a new company tomorrow." And then from that point on, it has not slowed down.
So this has been what, like, seems to me like a 5 or 6 year journey so far.
Right around that. It all started with the acquisition of JES, and from that point, we JES had actually already acquired some companies, and then we just continued to acquire others as it made sense. There is no national until we came here, national foundation services company. So our
Yeah.
CEO Matt Malone saw that as an opportunity to really bring a unified level of service to customers across the entire nation.
Yeah, I mean, what you guys have done is super impressive. I'm always like, it seems like almost every time that I open up like Inside Business, which is the local business journal here, or get an email, there's some news about Groundworks. As a matter of fact, just this morning, I was sharing with the team that there's the 2 acquisitions, one in Alabama and one in Michigan, which is kind of like old news at this point as far as like, oh, they acquired another company, you know? And so like you guys are definitely on the tear right now. But I love the fact that you're like, your attitude, and I guess the company's attitude is not even so much like look at how much we've done. We're in 24 states. Just look at how much is left to do. Like we haven't even started yet. That's crazy.
Yeah, that is our culture. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, this industry has so much potential. I mean, to think where we started just years back, just the one building, to think that we have over 2,000 employees now. I mean, that's just phenomenal to us.
Yeah. Yeah. Good for you guys. That's amazing. All right. So anyone who's watching, go to our Facebook Live if you're watching somewhere else, and you can ask a question. As a matter of fact, we already have 2 comments. One is from people you probably recognize their names. So Elizabeth Duncan Hawker says, "Hello, my MA friends." So I think that's Marketers Anonymous versus AMA. And hello there, Occasio. And then Mark Bauer says, "Good afternoon, comma, barely." So Mark and Elizabeth say hello. Elena says, "Occasio is the Mr. Miyagi of PR and marketing." Oh, wow. Lots of comments already.
Yeah.
Lots of praise on you, man. That's awesome.
Well, that's credit to the local area. I mean, Hampton Roads is one of those communities where everyone knows everyone.
Yeah,
Whether it's been at a Marketers Anonymous or at an AMA luncheon or just on the beach, you run into people and you make great relationships. So,
it is.
like how we met. I mean, we've stayed in touch. You've had events, I've come to your events. I've had events, I've come to your events.
Yeah.
And I don't see that stopping anytime soon. That's really what the community is all about.
It is quite tight. Yeah. And Elizabeth comments again that Groundworks is on fire with growth, and certainly what it sounds like. So hey, let's talk about marketing a little bit. All right. So we have a lot of marketers that tune into this lunchtime live, and how does marketing play in with Groundworks growth? And then once a company is acquired, how do you go about, like, I'm guessing that these companies that you acquire, they already have like a marketing agency or they have a marketing staff or something. Like how do you blend that in? How long does it take to blend it in? Do you even blend it in? Like what's kind of the strategy there?
Yeah, it's really unique for each company. We would never take a one size fits all approach to the acquisition side. These are our new partners. They're part of what we call our tribe. Our culture is one of inclusivity here. So we make sure that we find a place for everyone that we can. It's great when you look at our team. We have some of the best marketers in the country, especially within the home services industry, and we take pride in that. I encourage people to take a look at our Facebook page and the videos we have. I mean, our videography team is second to none. We have people who have done short films, have done production in Hollywood, and it really shows. We look at each of these companies as we acquire them, and those team members as assets to really make us go further. We find a place for them. We fit them into the team, and we grow. I mean, each company has its own unique customer base. So we can't just blanket market. So we have to look at analytically, we have to look at what's performed well. What do they do better than we do? What do we do better than they do?
Hmm.
And find a way for it all to merge together.
Nice. That's awesome. Cool. All right. Yeah, we got a few more comments already. Like this is pretty hot, Occasio. I think not only is Groundworks on fire, like you're on fire, because we don't normally get this many like comments and questions. So here we go. Kay says, way tips. Okay, I'm going to read it as is. Way tips do you have for non-local acquisitions where you aren't familiar with the community and may like an intrusion? So I think what the I don't know if intrusion is the right word, but oh, okay. And then correction. What tips? What tips do you
Okay.
have for non-local acquisitions where you aren't familiar with the community?
Yeah, that's one of the critical things on the PR side, something I definitely have to look at. Take your time. Once you acquire a company, don't don't change them overnight. Be responsive to what they have as their strongest assets. Um, we have a very it's interesting. Our CEO writes articles in Forbes, and one of the ones that just went up, or I think is about to go up, is about, do you treat your company as a family or as a tribe? And with us, we treat it as a tribe. Each person has their own responsibility. Each person has their own job, but we have a sense of respect for one another. So we go in and we respect the work they've done. I
Yeah.
mean, if a company's worth acquiring, they must be doing something right. So you don't change that. We keep our local branding. Each of our companies has their unique name because they built that over years, in many cases 20 plus years. So we still let those identities live. One of the interesting things is, in my role, I'm looking at best places to work. Well, we can't just do one best place to work because each of these communities are unique.
Yeah.
If it's a Raleigh team, is that the best place to work? Is it the Cleveland team? Is that the best place to work? And each of them, we lift them up in that manner.
So you're in the marketing department of Groundworks. Does that service the marketing needs for each of these different regions?
It does. It does. Like I said, we have an amazing team, and to look at the ability to actually put out the marketing message for each of these unique brands, and do it efficiently, it's really a testament to everyone's talent and abilities here.
Impressive. Yeah, that's got to be difficult. So when a new company is acquired, like let's say the ones you just acquired in Alabama, Michigan, does that necessitate, like, you as an example, going to the market and like meeting with the people and understanding like how they work, and like how much I mean, I guess how much travel is involved and how much do you get to know those communities?
Well, knowing those communities is critical. And it's one of the things that as we grow, we're trying to figure out what's the best way. I mean, I think that what we've done has worked well. But as we
Mhm.
get bigger, maybe we can try something different. And that's one of the key things is not being dead set on any of our tactics. What I would say is their local teams, back to that, their local teams are the most important. We don't come in and say, oh, what you're doing is wrong. We say, hey, tell us about your relationships.
Yeah.
What's working? And we keep those relationships going. It's all about relationships. I personally haven't traveled a lot. I travel for a lot of like ribbon cuttings and new locations. But the biggest, we do have some members that go out often. We have a training team, our Groundworks University, that travel often.
Nice.
And you'll see, as I shouted out our videos earlier, if you see the videos, you can tell we have members of the team that are out there in the field really often. I'll probably be traveling a lot more in the upcoming months, but we do it as it makes sense.
There you go. Very cool. All right. I have definitely a whole nother line that I want to like talk about, but I'm going to hold off on that for a second. So Tim Ritter says Groundworks is terrific. So more kudos to you guys.
Thank
And
you.
then Jody Woodward says JES has been a client of mine in the events business for years. You have an awesome team, although we are on pause with events right now due to coronavirus. Yep. So
Yeah,
that's
so
she's
that's a great point. So she talked about our events. Our events team stays on fire when they can. We treat every single channel with respect. Whether it's getting leads through events, getting leads through magazines, newspapers, on the web, search, all of those are really critical to making sure that we can remain successful.
Yeah, which is exactly what I want to talk about, like the different channels. But before we do that, let's talk about events just a little bit because um, I wouldn't expect that you would be doing events to promote like JES as an example. Is that what's happening, or is it like how do those events happen?
Well,
Like,
so these are mostly like home shows and items like that, where we have a
gotcha.
team out there, and the team is really promoting the services we offer.
Awesome. No, that makes total sense. Okay. Yeah, I didn't think about a home show. Okay. That makes a ton of sense. So let's talk about like yeah, you mentioned a couple different channels, right? So we've talked about events. Jody's been helping you with events. We've talked well, I know that you're working on a lot of PR yourself,
Yeah.
right? What are some other kind of channels that you use? Are there any favorites? Do you like only go to some? Do you exclude some?
Yeah, I would say I personally like to say there's no favorites. Um, we love leads from everywhere we can get, but you need to understand, as marketers, every lead source has its advantages and disadvantages.
Yep.
Some will be less expensive, some will be more expensive, some will convert better. You just
Yeah.
have to come in with that understanding as you enter it. Whether we are doing Facebook ads or if we're doing um, billboards. Each of those has its unique place, and not just for the lead generation side, but also for the brand side. Um, you may not get a million leads coming in from a billboard, but when you see us when you're going down a military highway and you see our billboard, oh, it gives you a little bit of recall. And multi-channel marketing is really key this day.
How about when you start targeting customers? My guess is that you have like an ideal customer in mind, maybe someone who lives in a house that's 20 years old, something like that, where the house is starting to have structural problems. Is that kind of accurate?
Well, you have to be careful too when you build your personas and have your perfect customers that you don't exclude people at the same time. So you have to have those two trains of thought. You look at, okay, what have we done in the past? What customers have we had a really great time of acquiring, and find others like that. But
Hmm.
at the same time, you have to look to see what other opportunities are out there. Um, Retargeting is huge. As digital marketers, you guys
Yeah.
are really familiar with the ability to retarget someone and do lookalike audiences. But why not make that same thing happen in the print world? Do things such as we've actually done retargeting, programmatic retargeting with postcards.
From like website visitors.
Yeah, from website visitors or even from our existing customers, we've found ways to actually target their neighbors.
Yep. Nice. You okay?
Oh yeah, yeah. No, someone had poked their head in, but it's fine.
No. I'm live, dude. I can't talk right now. Um, yeah, I think postcards. As a digital marketer, people are always surprised that I talk about postcards. We send out postcards. I think they're great because if you get a piece of mail on your desk, like it sits on your desk, and you're going to eventually do something with it. You know, you may throw it away, but it's probably going to sit on your desk until you actually like process it. And the fact that you can get that piece of paper right in front of that person, especially when it's targeted, it's worth it, I think, every single time.
Yeah, and you know, the funny thing is people think about digital ads being everything now. You know, it's all about getting on Facebook. But you know what? You need to also reach people in other ways because once everyone sees everything on digital, it starts to kind of all blur together. So when you can stand out by being in other places as well, each one of those adding a little bit to your ability to get past that barrier
Yeah, I
of being
agree. There's some marketers that talk about underpriced attention, and you go to it wherever it is, right? And so if digital is getting expensive, especially if one digital channel is getting expensive like Facebook, well, maybe there's an opportunity somewhere else in digital or in non-digital, right? There's always opportunities. So like we talk internally that we're a digital marketing agency, but maybe in 10 years we won't be, right? Because it's so saturated and there's other better price attention somewhere else. So as marketers, yeah, we kind of need to like move around. But in your case, it sounds like you're omnipresent, which is the best of all worlds, if frankly, if you have the budget, which is great.
Definitely, definitely,
Yeah.
and have the don't be dead set on knowing what's going to work the best beforehand. You know, marketers have that saying ABT, always be testing. Test
Mhm.
one thing out, see how it works, and move to something else. And
Yep.
take some of the lessons learned from either your print and traditional or from your digital and try it on the other side. Look at your creative.
Yeah.
There's been a typical style of print creative over the years. Well, people are starting to get more acclimated to more of a digital style where it's cleaner and there's more white space. Why not bring that into your print? Because that's what people are expecting when they look at advertising, and do the same thing on on your digital side. Look at some of the things that work well in print and bring those items over
Nice.
there as
Actually,
well.
so we have a bunch of questions that I need to get to. And if you ask the questions, just hold on one second. I want to be a little bit greedy with Occasio's time here. I just wanted to ask about the programmatic direct mail. Right. So I know that we had kind of touched on that before we went live. Can you kind of explain that? And is that when you talked about retargeting?
Yeah, so that's one of the really interesting options that's out there for print advertising is you can work with partners who actually would pixel your site, and based on what happens on that pixel, they can actually retarget people that haven't converted. Think of it as a
The Facebook
shopping
pixel.
cart. Yeah, or an abandoned campaign.
Got
So
it.
a cart abandoned. So someone went to your site, they didn't fill out the form, they didn't convert. Retarget them with a postcard. But here's the thing: don't just retarget them with a postcard. Why not retarget them with a postcard as well as a Facebook ad? Because that's the easy part. That way, you're hitting them in multiple places. And they're like, you know what? Maybe I should be working with this company.
Yeah. Love it. And is all of that automated? It just happens in the background?
It can. It can. Yeah. There's definitely options that will automate as much of that as possible. When you're
Sweet.
working at scale, you have to find ways to work smart and not hard.
Love it. Very cool. All right. Let's get to a few questions. So we have Eric Thomas here. He says, do members of the marketing teams on other Groundworks brands work cross brand?
Definitely. So everyone works on every brand. That's one of our key things. And with that, of course, it takes time as people come on board to get them acclimated to all the brands. But you know, it's key that we know all of our brands, we know all of our companies. Our products are the same across all. So it makes it easy. It's not as difficult as many would think. Just knowing your unique audiences, but reaching them in the same manner.
So here locally, we have two major geographic regions. We have the South Side and the Peninsula. But people that aren't from here, they don't understand that. They don't even know what Hampton Roads is, right? Which is another moniker for the area. So that's unique to us, to this area. I'm guessing other regions have other unique qualities to them as well. In order to make sure that you don't say the wrong thing, do you have like it's like some sort of brand ambassador, or do you go to like the previous owners, or how does that work?
So yes to all of that. I mean, we're actually bringing on marketing local reps that actually can help us in those manners. But you know, we're one big tribe. We work closely with our teams that are in those markets, with especially with the leadership of those local markets, and make sure that hey, does this sound great to you? And we expect and appreciate feedback. Feedback is a gift, and we incorporate that into our finished products. So it's a one big effort, and we're always working to improve upon those. We do a lot of research. I never thought when I was in college that I would be using all the stuff I learned on the political science side to actually do marketing.
Yeah.
A lot of it is analysis of who lives in those different regions. You have to look at other people's ads as well. What are they saying? What are they doing? What's a way that you can get around their creative and do better?
Excellent. All right, cool. Actually, before I move on to this next one, if you have one group of marketers serving all these brands, um, is the plan just to get bigger with that marketing department? Like at some point, you have some sort of organizational structural issues in the marketing department, wouldn't you? Do you
Yeah,
break
yeah.
up into pods?
No, no, no. So we have teams. We have sub teams. I mean, we'll have
Mhm.
our creative team and we'll have our digital team. So each of those teams are responsible, and then as those we'll learn as we grow. We're bigger now than we were a year ago, and I'm sure we'll be bigger a year from now.
It's interesting. The way that you're describing the marketing department there at Groundworks is extremely similar to how I would explain my agency and then other agencies where you have basically different departments like operations and maybe sales or whatever. But in your case, it's lower in the marketing levels, right? Like creative production. But then you're servicing different clients. These just happen to be internal clients. And you have to know those clients inside and out. And the better that you know that industry, the better you can serve them. So that's really, really interesting. So
Yeah,
that's a
it's
cool
interesting. I've
transition.
never actually worked truly at an agency. I've worked with some agencies before, doing like freelance work and things like that. But I've come from two different corporate sides that are very similar, franchising, and then here with a multi-brand company where we are the company, but we can be looked at almost as an internal agency because
Yeah.
we are serving multiple brands and multiple clients, and so it's very there's definitely some parallels there.
Yeah. And I bet it makes it really interesting for you and the team. All right, here we go. Elizabeth Duncan Hawker again. She is getting her comments in. Good job,
The hawk.
Elizabeth. I think this is from something we talked about before about like how you go about finding new partners and acquisitions and how you need to basically treat them with respect. She said, I agree, Occasio. People remember how they are treated and honored early on when they are acquired. Cool.
Definitely.
All right, here's something from Kay. How do you track your leads from non-digital sources like billboards? Great question.
uh, Hard work. You know, if there's a marketer who can find a way to do 100% attribution, they would be the richest person in the world. There's going to be overlap. You can't do. I mean, a lot of people will do last point attribution. I don't necessarily think that's the right thing because you're not giving your full credit. You have to look at the overall lift that you get. You have to do a lot of analysis, um, and a lot of gut checking, a lot of guesswork.
Yeah.
But of course, we always ask the customers. That's one of the critical things. But honestly, customers may not even be aware. Um, just using a couple of examples of some local uh, partners we have. You look at something like RSVP and Valpak. They know they got something in the mail. They don't really know what brand it is. They're going to call it whichever one they're most familiar with. So you have to keep that in mind and trust it, but so much. And then just go with your gut. Try different things. Back to the testing. What seems to do the best? There's other options out there. Or promotions have different promotions on different places, but that may not necessarily work
Yeah.
in your industry.
Yeah, and I think if you see the message, especially in different media over and over and over again, potentially for years, like you said, Akash, you're going to lose track of that, right? You
Mhm.
just know, like you're just aware of the company at some point, and it doesn't matter like anymore where you got that message from. You got it so many times that you're now aware.
Yeah,
So
I mean, it honestly, if you look at it, I'll have often someone will call on a number from a newspaper, and when they're asked where they heard about us, they say they saw us on TV.
yeah,
So you can always know that it's gonna be a little incorrect,
that's right.
but it's always important to know that, no, it wasn't just the fact that they have this newspaper in front of them that they're calling their number on. They saw your TV ad as well. So
Right.
take all that into account as you're, building out your different marketing, partners.
Do you use call tracking in every different source, like billboard versus yeah? Okay.
Yeah, definitely,
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So, all right, let's see here. A couple other things. Mark Bowers says, I'm a marketing wannabe. Please explain retargeting.
Yeah, so retargeting is where you have a customer, and let's best example, I'm buying myself a new pair of shoes. And I end up not buying those shoes that time. Well, now all of a sudden I start getting ads about those shoes. I'm being retargeted. That's one side of it. And then the other side is my best friend who likes the same type of shoes as me, and we went to the same school, and we have about the same income. Well, he bought these shoes, and I'm very similar to him, so they're going to start sending me ads saying, "Hey, wouldn't you like these shoes?" Because someone who's very similar to you like these exact same shoes.
In your particular case, would that be like your neighbors? Like if I'm getting my house worked on, you send a postcard to my neighbors?
That's exactly one of the ways we do it.
Okay, cool. Cool, cool, cool. Yeah, I never really lumped that in with retargeting, but I guess that makes a lot of sense. I mean, they're certainly being targeted for a reason, so that's interesting. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean that's definitely another lookalike audience because their house is very similar. Most areas are built
yeah.
with similar houses around the same time.
Do you do what's it called, like the carrier routes? Like, you know what I mean by that?
So carrier routes are usually something you'll see more in like every door direct mail, where I'm going to blast the entire area. But carrier routes are a little bit more limited from the if you mail based on carrier routes because you don't have as much information about the individual.
Yeah,
With some of the partners, you might be able to say, "Hey, Eric, we're at your neighbor's house. Wouldn't you like to get your services helped as well?"
yeah. And what about like going, I mean, frankly, like door to door and hanging something on the neighbor's doors? Do you do that as well?
We have done that in the past. Again,
Yeah.
we love every single possibility, every single channel that's out there. Of course,
It's
COVID
like
is
the answer is yes every time.
always, but of course, in the COVID economy, you've had to adapt and do different things. Some
Sure.
people aren't as comfortable with you put hanging things on their door, so some things we've stepped away from for the time being.
Cool. Love it. All right. Let's see where we at here. Elizabeth. Elizabeth, I'm gonna have to cut you off. Jeez. All right. She says, I've loved using tangible mail for years. Very effective. Don't worry, Elizabeth. I won't cut you off. Great comments, great questions. Appreciate it. All right, Lauren Wilson. Home services have not really slowed down during the pandemic. How has your marketing strategy changed, if at all, for the future because of that? Also, hi, Occasio.
Hi, Lauren. The key thing is most of what we've done, or all of what we've done, has already was meeting the CDC guidelines beforehand. So instead of having to change processes, we just let the customers know, hey, we're already doing
Mm.
everything they're asking. You can be safe with us, but we have other options if you don't want someone in your home. So just being adaptable. Other than that, our messages haven't changed. We've been able to survive most of the storm pretty unharmed.
So I would imagine that most of the time, I would think you're not in the actual home, right? You're around the home, you're under the home, maybe
Yeah,
just in the
exactly.
home to talk to the homeowners. Is that, or I mean, is there a reason to go in there for something?
That's really it. Is mostly when our certified field inspectors come to the home to say, "Hey, here's what we found."
Right, right. Very cool. All right. So I love the approach. I love the fact that you're buying brands that internally you're working as an agency. I think that's really interesting. And I have worked jobs before where we service a handful or two handfuls of brands. And I felt like I was a consultant really. But I wasn't like flying off all over the place. I was able to really like dive into one brand and then move to the other brand. And then I learned a lot about them. So I think that's really cool what you guys are doing. And I love your approach on omnipresence, which is the answer is basically always yes, and then always like question what, like a lot of marketers that they want to like put a really fine point on the pencil as far as attribution. And a lot of times, like you said, it just comes down to kind of a gut check. Like, really, is this worth it? And you may not have all the data. You rarely do. Even in cases like with Facebook and online advertising, you may have a ton of data, but you may not have the answers, right? And so, like a lot of times, it comes down to a gut check. So I really like that approach as well. Very cool. Mhm.
Yeah, definitely.
So, is
And
there
don't be
anything
afraid to say
that I?
no. Like here's the antithesis. Even though you say yes, don't be afraid to say no. Not everything's going to work. Some things you try are going to fail. Don't be afraid to just stop it at that point.
There you go. All right, that was perfect. I say we wrap it up there.
Good.
Occasio, hey man, I really appreciate you coming on. That was really excellent. Thanks.
Thank you, Eric. Anytime.